Now, US Vice President and the Democrats' presidential candidate, Kamala Harris, is in excellent health. That's according to a newly released letter from her doctor. The Harris campaign has criticised her Republican rival, former US President Donald Trump, for not releasing his medical records ahead of the election. Trump is 78, and if he were to win, he would be the oldest president in history by the end of his term. Polls showed the two candidates in a neck-and-neck race. All right, well, for more on this story, I'm joined now by Matthew Karnitschnig. He is an American journalist and is Politico's chief Europe correspondent based in Berlin. Matthew, great to have you on the show. Now, Kamala Harris is in good health, according to her doctor. So why doesn't Donald Trump want to reveal his health data?
Well, he's delivered over the years details now and again, and I think it probably won't surprise many viewers that the reports about his health are always glowing, so much so that many people have questioned the veracity of them. Back in 2017, when he had just become president, he sent a bodyguard and his lawyers to his former doctor's office in New York, in fact, to collect his medical records there. This had been his doctor for 35 years, and at the time the doctor had told the press that he had prescribed Trump with hair growth medicine, which I guess the president really didn't want to get out. So he sent a team there to collect those records. So it's been something that's been very sensitive for Trump over the years. And the question now is whether what Kamala Harris has done will force him to put out an update, let's say, on his own condition. It's worth noting she didn't provide a full report on her health, but just a summary of it, or her doctor did, rather.
Now, Matthew, in Germany, at least, we're not accustomed to having detailed information on a politician's health status. Is this something that's habitual in the US, or is this a result of the current political climate there?
It's very habitual in the U.S. I think there's generally more transparency when it comes to issues like this, both in when it comes to public individuals and even private individuals. Americans aren't used, I would say, to the level of data privacy that most Europeans have become accustomed to. And when it comes to a politician like the President of the United States, I think many would argue that this position is just too important to not have more transparency in terms of the health of the individual who is going to assume that office. In a country like Germany, the chancellor is not directly elected. If Chancellor Scholz were, for whatever reason, to be incapacitated, they would simply put someone else forward in his position. The parties are elected, but given the power of the American presidency, both in the United States and beyond, I think it's a pretty reasonable ask of these candidates to give some indication before the election of what their health is.
All right, has the switch to Kamala Harris, now, as we know, a younger candidate than Joe Biden, been a major blow to the Trump campaign?
If you look at the polls, it certainly looks like it has made the campaign much more competitive. He was ahead before Biden stepped aside, and now the race is neck and neck. It's too close to call. It's within the margin of error, and it seems like no serious analysis can really conclude, which way it's going to go. So it certainly looks like the selection of Harris has made a huge difference for the Democrats and made them competitive and put Trump on his back foot. Yeah.
Well, we won't have too long to wait now, at least. Thanks, Matthew. Matthew Karnitschnig, American journalist and analyst based here in Berlin. Thanks for joining us on DW News.
Thank you.
With me in studio here is DW reporter Simon Bone to discuss this. Now, Simon, what do these records of Kamala Harris's health tell us?
Well, Tommy, what we received was this two-page letter from her White House physician, and I've read through it, and it's pretty unexceptional. I think many people will sympathize that she has allergies and takes phenofexidine for that, a very common medication. She also has urticaria or hives, a skin rash, which is also very common. And it goes into some detail about the scans and the blood work that she's undergone, which all turned out to be okay. She wears contact lenses. But there's nothing terribly surprising in here. I mean, she's a Californian. She's had a little bit of sun damage to her skin. That's about it.
Right. Do we expect similar records from Donald Trump?
Well, Donald Trump has released information in the past. His doctors also have released letters at various times. When he ran for president the first time, he famously issued this letter, in fact, that I'd like to quote this. If elected, Mr. Trump, I can state unequivocally, will be the healthiest individual ever elected to the presidency. It turned out Mr. Trump himself wrote that letter, or at least dictated it to his doctor. More recently, there was another letter, also very, very sparing on the details from his current physician, but all it said was his overall health was excellent. It didn't provide any details.
It turns out Trump was the one who started this whole health talk when Joe Biden was the Democratic, expected to be the Democratic nominee, and now it looks like the tables have turned.
Indeed, they have. Back in July at the Republican convention, Joe Biden's health and mental acuity were one of the main topics, the main angles of attack for Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance. 3 days after that convention, he dropped out of the race. And all of a sudden, they were dealing with a much younger candidate, 20 years younger almost, who indeed has the mental acuity to serve as president. And all of those arguments now that were used against President Biden, that he was too old, well, if Mr. Trump serves another term in office, he will be the oldest president of the United States. And so it's backfired on them a little bit. And even some people in the Republican Party have been saying that Trump has been rambling a little bit in his speeches lately. He's always spoken spontaneously, but on the campaign trail, he's often gone on quite wide tangents from the topic at hand. So he has opened himself up to this line of attack.
Okay. DW reporter Simon Bone, thank you for the insights.